Welcome to the NBA Prop Pick Show, powered by EV Analytics. I'm Don Mettler. He's Adam Scherher. Game 6 NBA Finals tonight. Thunder take a 3-2 lead after Game 5. I would say pretty sweat-free winner, other than TJ McConnell going crazy at one point to score 18 points and get it decently close. But I think the Thunder were pretty much in control of that game the whole way through. It's kind of funny because you have Thunder up 3-2 on the road. They're like minus 1,800 to win the series. But I mean, technically, if they lose this game, we're going to a one-game knockout into a Game 7. But it just kind of highlights, I mean, the difference in power ratings here because they would be like a 10-point favorite in Game 7 there. We did go 1-0 on our props in Game 5. Miles Turner over 4.5 rebounds. That hit. He had 6 rebounds, so that's good. Having a good NBA Finals here. Not too many bets, but we're winning the ones we're putting out, so we like that as well. See, Adam, you're finally taking off the Baltimore Orioles hat. I'm guessing 12 unanswered runs by the Tampa Bay Rays. Kind of changed your mind about that today?
Yeah, it wasn't a great game yesterday. I thought they were just walking to at least a series split against Tampa and then completely blew the game.
Yeah, I had I saw the Brandon Lau home run. I'm like, oh my God, they're going to come back. But that was pretty crazy. But we'll get going into the NBA Finals here. I want to talk about the bet, and then I want to talk about some other things as well. More just like about Haliburton, because Haliburton's kind of holding this market, a lot of the player props hostage to a degree. Just kind of want to get your take on that. We'll go to the bet first, though. So we're going to bet MGM, and we are going after I guess a scary one here, but is a higher total than what he's had most of the series. We're going Jaylen Williams under 23.5 points, minus 110. That's what a 1.9 is on the decimal odds there. So that's Jaylen Williams under 23.5 points coming off of the 40 piece. Adam, you want to break this one down?
Yeah, you said it. This one is scary. And if we had a full set of games, probably not one I'd be looking at. But I think it's a really difficult board in general today, partly because, like you said, you have Haliburton messing things up on the Indiana side. But this line with Williams is it's tricky because it really depends, I think, mostly on what Indiana decides to do defensively. Like if you look game by game in this series, games 1 and 2, 24% usage and 26% usage for Jaylen Williams, 17 points and 19 points, well under the 23.5. Those were the games where they were kind of just letting SGA get his and not letting anyone else beat them. Then they change strategies. They start face guarding SGA, keeping the ball out of his hands. In the last 3 games, 32.5, 33.5, and 36% usage for Jaylen Williams, and 26, 27, and 40 points. This line is kind of just like, it should either be several points low, a couple points lower, or like several points higher, I think. And we won't know which one until we really see what Indiana's doing. But I do like that he dropped the 40 last game. Like Indiana went 1-1 in the games where they were kind of letting SGA do his thing. Now they're 1-2 in the games where they make Jaylen Williams and others beat them. Maybe they switch back tonight, maybe they don't. But he made it very clear last game. He can just go out there and dominate them, drop 40. Maybe they switch things up. You get back closer to games 1 and 2. And I do like, that the line did increase a little bit from where it was at the beginning. So again, really scary. If Indiana plays this game the same way they did the last 3, you're pretty much cooked, I think. But hopefully they make some adjustments, maybe go back to letting SGA get a little bit more.
Yeah, as per typical in the NBA, I feel like every time a team loses, something changes. Like you said, they've now lost 2 kind of with this strategy of they're just letting Jaylen Williams get free lanes to the basket because they're guarding SGA so much. So you maybe that was your strategy. Maybe it was, okay, let's put all the finals, pressure on J-Dub, see if he can handle it. He scored 40. He won the game. SGA still had 30, but there's just no way that's your defensive coverage again this game. And I feel that way as well. And I feel like they're going to have to go take some away from SGA and kind of put some towards Jaylen Williams. I do think the Thunder figured out something very strong where it's SGA and Jaylen Williams running the pick and roll together. They're kind of doing that inverted pick and roll instead of bringing up the bigs. It's those two screening for each other. And that's kind of put the Pacers in a bind. They're going to have to stop Jaylen Williams in that set where SGA is the screener. So I think this is also up. He was 20.5 game 1. So this is up 3 points. That's a full 3-pointer. For some players, that's a whole prop, right? To hit a 3-pointer. So it doesn't look like much when you're, 23.5, 20.5, but you're talking about a full 3-pointer here. I just really don't think the Pacers will run back the same defensive strategy. I totally agree with you. I do feel like this is going to be an SGA game. I feel like they're going to have to change their coverages a bit. And for him, it's also Jaylen Williams is coming for your finals MVP a little bit here. So if you're SGA, I feel like you're going to step the foot on the gas yourself to kind of, hey, you know what, this is mine. I'm averaging 30 points a game, having a historic playoff. So I could just kind of see that. You're also on the road, where it's a different building. Do you want to add something there?
I was gonna say it's just like it's such a weird line. Like I wish you could like ladder unders, but also like if you didn't want to take the under here, I almost think that thinking about laddering the over would be interesting, just because again, like I don't think 23.5 is correct no matter what. Like it should either be 25.5 or it should be 21.5 kind of. So I don't know, it's a really interesting line. And obviously, like I'm leaning under, that's how we have it projected and the reasons I said, but it's just such a weird line. It's almost like if you're looking at this and you're like, well, he dropped 40 last game, I don't want to bet the under. Like I almost think like laddering the over is kind of interesting too.
So you think it should be like almost like 30 plus or like 18 below?
Yeah, it's like really polarized, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's a game. I mean, and you can see it in the usage rates. Like there hasn't been a game in this series where Jaylen Williams has a usage rate between 26 and 32%. Like it's either they're giving it to Jaylen Williams or they're taking Jaylen Williams away.
Nick saying you can ladder the under at FanDuel. I think at some point in the day, I don't know if it's initially, it might be out now just because the odds have been posted for all. I do know FanDuel does put up alternate unders. It usually comes later in the day. It's not something they open in the morning, but those alternate they do open later type things. So you can look under 20.5 plus 164, Nick just said. So now you got Adam's attention now.
Yeah, I mean, so and just to put a number on it, I've said before that you always have to add more context to things in the postseason because it's individual matchups and you can buy a little bit more into exactly how teams are playing. And in general, like regular season rates are going to impact the projection numbers. So we have a 21.2 point projection on Jaylen Williams, and again, that's going to be heavily influenced by what he did in the regular season and how he was used. So like, I think using that as kind of a proxy of if Indiana goes back to kind of not letting secondary guys beat them, you're looking at like a 21-ish point projection. So under 20.5 plus 164 would probably look pretty good if you think that's how they're going to play it.
Yeah, you're basically saying like this is dependent on how if the Pacers guard him the same way they have last couple games, we're in trouble. He could go for 30 plus, but the Pacers switch it up. You're looking at alternate unders here because they're just not going to give him. They're basically like you can watch highlight reels of the 40-point. He had easy buckets, easy lanes to the rim. Like they're not really the person he's keying on. So if they do start to key on him, which I feel like you have to at this point, he scored 40 against you. Like you can't have this like, oh, prove it again. Like he's done it twice now. He burned you at the end of the last game as well. So the bet here is Jaylen Williams under 23.5 points, minus 110. You can look at those alt unders as well. If Adam was highlighting there too. More just like basic strategy betting because we do have like a unique scenario tonight. Game 6, Tyrese Haliburton questionable, but I feel like it's probably gonna be one of those he plays. Maybe he's he just isn't effective with how he plays. I know you're a big DFS, you're a big bettor, all those things. How do you handle like a situation like this where you really just don't know? Are you gonna wait? Like, do you wait for information to more clarification of what he might be playing? Or are you trying to jump ahead and get things before they move? How do you kind of handle like a situation like this?
Yeah, I was thinking about it this morning. I haven't done anything with it yet. I was thinking about it more like how am I going to approach DFS tonight if assuming Haliburton is in? Like I think these are the most difficult spots because it's so hard to quantify. The one thing here though is like we know what the injury is for Haliburton, and we know that it's something that like significantly limits guys. Like usually they miss at least a game. Usually they're out for a while. So it's not like he has a broken thumb and you're trying to guess like how that's going to affect his shooting. Like he has a calf strain. It's a legitimate injury. He is going to be hamstrung, for lack of a better phrase. So like I'm leaning towards, and again, like I haven't decided what I'm gonna do, but I'm leaning towards like assuming he starts, like from a DFS standpoint, just kind of bumping the Nembhard, McConnell type guys that would benefit if Haliburton plays reduced minutes or if he's just kind of out there as a decoy. The other guys, that can handle the ball and do some stuff. From a betting standpoint, like obviously you want to pay attention to what the lines are. You don't want to just blindly go in and say like I'm betting TJ McConnell overs if the overs are if the lines are 2 points higher than they normally would be. We were talking about that before the show. Haliburton showed up in our projections as a really good bet, and I got excited because I was hoping it was the under, but it was the over for his points. And that's I think the under would be like interesting on Haliburton, 13.5. But like that's the thing, 13.5 points is relatively low for Haliburton. If you just use regular projections on him, project him for 35 minutes, he projects for like 18 points. So you're already getting this line that is assuming an injured Haliburton, and that's what I would expect. They're not going to prop pricing isn't the most efficient thing in the world. If it was, we wouldn't be able to do shows with bets that beat it. But they're not completely asleep. Like they know Haliburton is not at full strength.
Yeah. It's showing on the screen there, Haliburton under. That would be like your under 13.5, under 6.5 assists, under 4.5 rebounds, plus 450. That would be like you think he's going to start, come in, and maybe be done at halftime. That would be my guess. That's
Yeah, or just
like you're
kind of stand in the corner, dribble to the top of the key, get some passes. Like
more decoy, because that's what you're saying is like if he does play 30, like if he does play his normal like 34, 35 minutes, those all lines are all really low. Like they know he's injured, that type of thing. So if you're going that route, that would be like, I just don't think he's either going to be very ineffective, or I think he's going to get pulled, or like, I mean, there's also a good chance maybe that does happen just from like a score standpoint too. Cause I mean, it is the Thunder. They are a team who are capable of blowing people out. I kind of do feel like you're seeing like TJ McConnell tonight's trading at 10.5 for the over. And you're like, whoa, that's a lot for TJ McConnell. But then like, is Haliburton playing? You don't really know. So like all those things. And then I'm like, I personally don't think TJ McConnell plays more than like 22, 23. Like he doesn't play a lot of minutes. I don't think he can just fill in for Haliburton. I think the guy for me I keep looking at is, I think Nembhard's the one who I feel like you can play that. Boom, that's the one. I actually placed that. That's with the SGP there. That I think Nembhard's the one where you can look at, you're probably okay on his props, even if like Haliburton does play and as his normal self. But I feel like there's also obviously a path where they move him into like Haliburton's role, because I don't think it's TJ McConnell. I actually do think it's Nembhard who would take over that spot. So that's, and I also think
Nembhard's a really interesting one, because his rates when he plays without either one of Haliburton and McConnell go through the roof. He's still like non-existent though when he shares the floor with McConnell. Like it runs through McConnell when McConnell's out there. So, and McConnell can play big minutes. Like he does it occasionally during the regular season when like Haliburton / Nembhard are out. They'll just throw him out there and he'll play a ton. So like it depends on that. Like if you do think, even if Haliburton, plays reduced minutes, if you think McConnell's going to play like 20 to 22, then yeah, I love overs on Nembhard. If you think McConnell's going to go play 30 plus, Nembhard is kind of he stays in kind of that same role, because McConnell just kind of overtakes it. I even think Mathurin overs are interesting, because if you don't have Haliburton, or if Haliburton is just not functioning, you need scoring. And yeah, Mathurin comes with flaws, but he can at least go out there and put the ball in the basket. So like that's another interesting one to consider.
Yeah, I think now we're going really deep here, but I do feel like someone like, I'd be concerned about someone from Miles Turner, like his minutes too, because like you're talking, if Haliburton's out, they need more offense. Mathurin, that probably does swing towards like Mathurin, Obi Toppin, where you're just trying to put a little more offense on the floor to make up for Haliburton, and they kind of have been more effective without Miles Turner, even with Haliburton playing. So there's a lot of different paths here. You can go a lot of different ways. I do lean towards, I think he's playing. I don't think he'll be effective. That's kind of my stance. I think he's going to go do the Aaron Gordon game 7 where he's on the floor and he's like limping. And you saw last game where he made, like, the problem is like you were saying, we know what the injury is, it's calf, and he's a very shifty player to begin with. And then now you can't step and move. Like that's his whole game, is like pushing pace and running. So, and you saw like last game, there's a couple times he tried to do a step back, and like, yeah, I saw him like grab his leg. And I'm like, man, he is hurting. Like he's going to try to play, but I just don't think he's effective. So that actually probably helps you with, I would say, player props coming into this, because it'll be harder for the sportsbooks, I think, to adapt with him playing, versus they rule him out. Everyone will get ghosted. They'll put them all back up and everyone will have much like higher lines, right? So
yeah, I mean, he had a 13% usage rate last game. Like I think that is, I expect something similar to that. Like, I don't think he's magically going to be back out there with a 25% usage rate like he had in previous games. His lowest of the series prior to last game was 17% in game 1. And then it was 13% last game, 4 points, 34 minutes. Like it's just not an injury that you expect him to be able to just like magically heal from in 48 hours or whatever.
Yeah, it's an interesting spot. It's interesting from a spread perspective too, because they've kind of pushed this from 5 to 6.5. I do think that's more the line with Haliburton being out. And if this was the regular season, you'd be like, okay, so there's a chance Haliburton plays. I'll take the 6.5 because I think you're okay if Haliburton's out. But then if he plays, you're getting a good edge. But the problem is I think he's playing with an injury where he's not effective. So I don't really want the spread that way. I do think the 6.5 is leaning way more towards Haliburton being out / injured than Haliburton being healthy. So there's that as well.
Probably, yeah. I mean, what were they previously? Like 5.5, 4.5? Like
They're
game
5.
4, game whatever, 3 and 4.
No, game 4. They were 6, but I actually took the Pacers because I thought I priced it out closer to 4, but that was with a healthy Haliburton. So I think with Haliburton compromise, I do think like 6.5, kind of 7 is more your spot. So it did move. It opened 5, I believe, for game 6 tonight, and then it's pushed up to 6.5 once they said he was going to be He had to be evaluated by doctors and stuff. It got pushed to 6.5. So
Yeah. Do you remember Kawhi Island? Like the teams that would just play 4-on-4, they would put somebody on Kawhi, but Kawhi would just go stand in the corner and let the Spurs. I think it was when he was with the Spurs play 4-on-4.
yeah,
I feel like that, but like with Haliburton hurt, like it's not even going to be that because they're not going to care enough. Like,
yeah. It's interesting too because the Thunder, it obviously changes their whole defensive coverage too if he's just out there as a decoy. So fun night. It'll be an interesting prop things. We're gonna get a lot. Obviously, a lot will happen between now and game time and what gets released on his health in there. So bunch of things you can look at, bunch of different ways you can attack this. Our one bet for today is Jaylen Williams under 23.5 points, -110 at BetMGM. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. This concludes the NBA Prop Pick Show, powered by EV Analytics. This could be our last show for the entire season. So thank you for following along. I'm not sure yet. I personally think it's overnight. I know Adam wants it to be overnight because he does have the Thunder in the series. Thank you for watching. Thank you for following along. Good luck with your bets. If there is a Game 7, we will see you then. Del, play the song.